Okay, so good evening everyone. Hello and welcome again to another live streaming of tax training. And today our discussion will continue on tax on individual. No? This is about income tax. No? I would like to say thank you sa atin pong mga ka-YouTubers. No? We reaches 5,620 subscribers. So thank you very much. Okay. So, good evening and continuation po tayo doon sa discussion natin on income tax last live streaming po natin last Thursday, no? So, dito na po tayo, tapos na natin. We have discussed the income tax rates, no? Yung income tax rates ng compensation at saka yung sa individual citizen, individual resident alien, na ito yung tax schedule na binago siya ng train law effective January 2018 until December 31, 2022. Ito yung applicable sa atin ngayon because we have a new tax rate starting January 1 of 2023, no? So yung tax schedule natin effective January 1, 2023 and onwards, no? So iba naman 'yon. Hindi pa siya ngayon applicable, no? So yung gagamitin muna natin yung tax rates na hanggang December 2022. Okay? So yung discussions po natin nasa letter C na tayo ng section 24 Section 24, no? Letter C, rate of tax for mixed income earners, no? So, magkano ba yung babayaran ng taxpayer na individual na meron siyang income ng galing sa different sources, no? Pwede siyang merong compensation income and meron siyang business or practice or profession, no? So, letter C of this section 24, as sabi niya dito, rate of tax for mixed income earners, no? Taxpayers' earnings, both compensation income and income from business or practice of profession shall be subject to the following taxes. Number 1, all income from compensation, yun yung tax rate na prescribed under subsection A to A of this section, yung sinabi ko kanina sa inyo na tax rate up to December 2022, no? And then all income from business or practice or profession, no? So if the total gross sales are or gross receipts and other non-operating income do not exceed the VAT threshold as provided in section 109BB of this code, the rate prescribed under the subsection A to A of this section on taxable income or 8%, no, income tax based on gross sales or gross receipts and other non-operating income in lieu of the graduated income tax rates under subsection A to A of this section and the percentage tax under section 116 of this code. So, nandito po sa section na to yung tinatawag natin na 8% option rate, no? Ano po ba yung 8% option rate? Ito yung qualified dito, yung individual na ang kanyang income hindi ilalabis sa 3 million, no? And then, pinili niya na magbayad siya ng 8% based on gross sales or gross receipts instead na magbabayad siya doon sa itemized na deduction. So anong mechanics dito, no? So, i-opt niya o piliin niya yung 8%, and that 8% na babayaran niya na income tax represent already the payment for 3% percentage tax and the 5% for income tax. Yun yung sinasabi natin na option rate, no? And then, number 2, letter B, if total gross sales and or gross receipts and other non-operating income exceeds the VAT thresholds, meaning the 3 million, provided in section 109BB of this code, the rates prescribed, no, yung rate kanina na sa train law, yun na ang magpiprevail. Pagka more than the 3 million na siya, bakit? kasi hindi na siya qualify doon sa 8% na option rate. Okay? So, shout out. Sino na yung nandyan?
Ma'am, wala pa ma'am nagchat-chat pero may viewers na ma'am. Wala pang
Ilan?
nagchat-chat.
Ilan yung viewers?
5 ma'am viewers natin.
Ah,
Wala.
so, wala pang nagchat-chat kung
Wala.
sino yung mga yan. Okay.
Medyo napaga tayo nung start yata.
8 o'clock na.
Wala po.
No? So, good evening po sa mga ka-YouTubers po natin na nanonood ngayon. So, good evening po sa inyo. No? Okay. So, tuloy lang po tayo. Dito na tayo sa letter B, rate of tax on certain passive income. Okay, so ano tong ibig sabihin ng mga passive income na to? Ito yung passive income na opposite po siya sa active income, no? So number one, nakalagay po dito, sabi dito, under the interest, royalties, prices, and other winnings, no? So these are what we called as passive income. Bakit passive income? Kasi wala pong active na ginagawa dito na activity ang individual, pero kakaroon siya ng income. At saan galing ang source nito? For her interest, halimbawa, saan ito nanggagaling? Sa kanyang investment o sa pera na nilagay niya sa bangko. How about royalties? Yung royalties, manggagaling din sa use of intangibles niya or license na magbabayad sa kanya. So, in the form of royalties. Wala rin siyang active na ginawa. Prices, ito yung mga winnings, no? Na binibigay sa individual and other winnings, no? Kung ano mang klase yon. So the final tax, this is subject to final tax, no? Final tax at the rate of 20%, no? Imposed upon the amount of interest from any currency bank deposit and yield or any other monetary benefit from deposit substitutes, no? 20% final tax. Anong pagkakaiba po ng final tax at saka creditable tax? Pag sinabi po natin na final tax, final na siya, sapat na yung binawas na 20%, sapat na para doon sa tax, no, dyan sa income na yan. Pag sinabi natin na creditable, hindi pa siya final. Magko-compute pa yung individual na nakatanggap ng income, kukumputin pa niya yung tamang income, ang withholding na binawas doon sa kanyang income, gagamitin lang niya na deductions pag na-compute na niya yung tax due. No? So, hindi pwede ma-penalize po ang isang individual pagka yung kanyang creditable na income hindi po niya i-report sa kanyang income tax return. No? May penalty. Okay. So, magkano po yung tax na final tax? 20%. Saan po siya manggagaling? Sa monetary benefit from deposit substitutes and from trust funds and similar arrangement. No? Royalties, except on books. Bakit except on books? Kasi ang royalty po sa books is 10% lang. Other royalties, 20%. As well as other literary works and musical compositions, which shall be imposed a final tax of 10%. No? So, royalties sa mga books at saka literary works and musical composition, the final tax is 10%. No? So, prices, except prices amounting to 10,000 pesos or less, which shall be subject to tax under subsection A of Section 24. Isama siya sa compensation, no? And other winnings, except winnings amounting to 10,000 or less from Philippine charity sweepstakes and lotto, which shall be exempt, no? So yung sa PCSO at saka lotto, exempt po siya sa tax, no? Derived from sources within the Philippines, provided, however, that interest income received by an individual taxpayer except non-resident individual from a depository bank under the expanded foreign currency deposit system shall be subject to a final income tax at the rate of 15%. No? So, 15% final tax, ito yung mga interest from income received by individual from depository bank, no? Under the expanded foreign currency deposit system, no? 15%. Provided further that interest income from long-term deposit or investment in the form of savings, common or individual trust funds, deposit substitutes, investment management accounts, and other investment evidenced by certificate in such form prescribed by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas shall be exempt from the tax imposed under this subsection, provided finally that should the holder of the certificate pre-terminate the deposit or investment before the 5th year, a final tax shall be imposed on the entire income and shall be deducted and withheld by the depository bank from the proceeds of the long-term deposit of investment certificate or investment certificate based on the remaining maturity thereof. Magkano po yun? 4 years to less. 3 years to less than 4 years for 12%. Kasi parang incentive yun ng government na pagka mas mahaba yung time na nag-invest ka, mas bababa ang rate, no, ng withholding. Okay. So, kung less than 3 years, 20%. Kasi regularly, 20% talaga siya. Okay. How about cash and property dividends? Cash and property dividends, final tax po siya na 10%, no? Shall be imposed upon the cash and or property dividend actually or constructively received by an individual from a domestic corporation or from a joint stock company, insurance or mutual fund companies and regional operating headquarters or multinational companies, or on the share of an individual in the distributable net income after tax of a partnership, no? So 10% din siya, a final tax. Except general professional partnership. Why? Kasi ang general professional partnership is not subject to tax, no? Of which is a partner or in the share of an individual in the net income after tax of an association, joint account, joint venture or consortium, taxable as a corporation of which he is a member or co-venturer, no? So letter C, capital gains from sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange. Magkano po? 15%, no? So yung hindi traded sa stock exchange, no? So provisions of section 39B notwithstanding, a final tax at the rate of 15% is hereby imposed upon the net capital gains realized during the taxable year from the sale, barter, exchange, or other disposition of shares of stocks in a domestic corporation, except shares sold or disposed of through the stock exchange. Kasi pag through the stock exchange, ito yung traded, no? So in this case, yung capital gains from the sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange, the tax is 15%, no? Okay. So dati magkano lang yan? 5%. Pagka ang net capital gains mo is not over 100,000 and over 100,000, magkano na siya? 10%, no? So ngayon flat rate na siya na 15%. Ito yung changes during the train law, no, noong 2018. Capital gains from sale of real property, how much? 6% na final tax, no? Ang changes brought about by this train law, ginawa niya na yung capital gains from sale of real property na dati na 6%, remain po niya na 6%. Pero ang ginawa niya, pati yung estate tax and donor's tax, pareho na 6%, no? Kasi ang katwiran, same lang din naman na transactions and property. So, rapat lang na yung tax, halos pareho din, no? So, The provision of Section 39B notwithstanding a final tax of 6% based on the gross selling price or current fair market value as determined in accordance with Section 6E of this code, whichever is higher is hereby imposed upon capital gains presumed to have been realized from the sale, exchange, or other disposition of real property located in the Philippines, classified as capital assets. So, capital assets po siya, hindi siya ordinary assets. Bakit? Kasi pag ordinary assets, iba po yung taxation niya. No? Hindi siya final tax kung hindi creditable withholding tax. At saka, i-declare pa siya sa income tax return. No? So, including facto de retro sales and other forms of conditional sales by individuals, including estates and trust. No? So, provided that the tax liability, if any, on gains from sales or other dispositions of real property to the government or any of its political subdivisions or agencies or to government-owned or controlled corporation shall be determined either under Section 24A or under this subsection at the option of the taxpayer. No? So, 6% final tax. No? Magkano siya? Based on the gross selling price, kasi deed of sale nga, or the current fair market value determined in accordance with Section 6A. Ano yung fair market value? The zonal value as determined by the commissioner. No? So, balikan ko lang sandali yung capital gains from sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange. Ito yung mga private corporations, no? Shares of stocks issued by private corporations not traded through the stock exchange. Meron po tayong updates dito na hindi na inamend na yung 6-2013 and 6-2008 na ang valuation ng shares of stocks noon kasama yung mga property registered in the name of the corporations. Sa ngayon, hindi na po kasama. Yun lang stockholders' equity na nandoon sa latest financial statement, yun na po yung dating computation, yan na po yung gagamitin. Hindi na kasama kung may mga properties registered in the corporation. Only the equity as shown as in the latest financial statements. Latest audited financial statements. No? O, wala pa rin?
Meron na ma'am. Si Sir Jomari de la Paz.
Okay. So, shout out po Sir Jomari de la Paz.
Tapos yung sa mga participant din natin kanina ma'am, si Sir Christian Brian Kakayan.
So, shout out Sir Christian, no?
Tapos,
Sipag, masipag.
Ma'am Jolina Abitong Reyes.
Okay, so shout out po Miss Jolina, no?
Jelly Pearl Ferrer. Sila ma'am.
Okay, so ano yun? Jennifer?
Jelly.
Jelly. Jennifer Ferrer, no? Shout out po sa inyo, no? Okay, sige, balik po tayo sa ating discussion sa income tax, no? Matagal ito kasi mahaba at marami yung income tax natin. Meron tayong income tax sa individual, meron pa tayong income tax sa corporations, no? So, anong exceptions? May exceptions po dito sa taxation to ng shares of stocks at saka yung sa capital gains, no? Ano tong exception? Provision of paragraph 1 of this subsection to the contrary notwithstanding, capital gains presumed to have been realized from the sale or disposition of their principal residence, no? Ito yung dating section 34D, no? Principal residence by natural persons, the proceeds of which is fully utilized in acquiring or constructing a new principal residence within 18 calendar months from the date of sale or disposition shall be exempt from the capital gains tax, no, imposed under this subsection. So, exempt siya sa capital gains tax pagka yung principal residence nung tao, yun yung binenta niya, and the purpose is to buy another principal residence, no? So, exempt sa capital gains tax. Provided that the historical cost of, or adjusted basis of the real property sold or disposed shall be carried over to the new principal residence built or acquired. No? Provided further that the commissioner shall have been duly notified by the taxpayer within 30 days from the date of sale or disposition through a prescribed return of his intention to avail of the tax exemption herein mentioned. So, dapat i-notify niya, magkaroon siya ng letter of intent na i-avail po niya yung exemption sa disposition ng principal residence. No? Provided still further that the said tax exemption can only be availed of once every 10 years. Kasi hindi pwede na mag-avail ka ngayon, after 2 years, avail ka ulit. No? Every 10 years lang. Provided finally that if there is no full utilization of the proceeds of sale or disposition, the portion of the gain presumed to have been realized from the sale or disposition shall be subject to capital gains tax. Halimbawa, nabenta mo yung principal residence mo ng 50 million, tapos yung ginamit mo dun sa pagbili ng bagong principal residence mo is only 25 million. So, magkano yung subject to tax? The 25 million is subject to tax. So, for this purpose, the gross selling price or fair market value at the time of sale, whichever is higher, shall be multiplied by a fraction which the unutilized amount bears to the gross selling price in order to determine the taxable portion, and the tax prescribed under paragraph 1 of this subsection shall be imposed hereof. No? So, whichever is higher. Okay. So, doon na tayo sa individual na citizen of the Philippines. Now, let's go to tax on non-resident alien individual. Magkano? No? So, Section 25 ng National Internal Revenue Code provides that the tax on non-resident alien individual, letter A, non-resident alien engaged in trade or business within the Philippines. No? So, number 1 in general, a non-resident alien individual engaged in trade or business in the Philippines shall be subject to an income tax in the same manner as an individual citizen and a resident alien individual. No? So, yung non-resident individual na engaged in trade or business sa mga regulations natin, meaning naka 183 days na siya dito sa Pilipinas. So, tax siya as if resident alien individual. No? So, magkano yung tax niya? Like the resident citizen, no? Taxable income received from all sources within the Philippines. No? A non-resident alien individual who come to the Philippines, stay therein for a period of more than 180 days, meaning 180 days, no? Na-fix na po ito ng regulations. During any calendar year, shall be deemed a non-resident alien doing business in the Philippines. So, may number of days lang. Kasi pagka below 180 days, hindi siya alien na engaged in trade or business in the Philippines. Hindi siya considered, mas mataas yung tax rate imposed sa kanya. Number 2, cash and or property dividend from domestic corporation or joint stock company or insurance or mutual fund company or regional operating headquarter or multinational company or share in the distributable net income of a partnership except a general professional partnership, joint account, joint venture taxable as a corporation or association, interest, royalties, prices, and other winnings. No? So, kano yung kanyang tax? No? Cash and or property dividends from a domestic corporation or from a joint stock company or from an insurance or mutual fund company or from a regional operating headquarters or multinational company or the share of a non-resident alien individual in the distributable and income after tax of a partnership, except general professional partnership of which he is a partner, or the share of a non-resident alien individual in the net income after tax of an association, a joint account, or a joint venture taxable as a corporation of which he is a member or a co-venturer. No? interest, royalties in any form, and prices, except prices amounting to 10,000 pesos or less, which shall be subject to tax under subsection B1 of Section 24, and other winnings, except Philippines charity sweepstakes and lotto winnings, shall be subject to an income tax of 20%. No? Same lang din doon sa individual natin kanina kasi pareho lang sila na 20%. Or the total amount thereof, provided that royalties on books as well as other literary works and royalties on musical compositions shall be subject to a final tax of 10%. So same lang doon sa individual resident. On the total amount thereof, so provided further that cinematographic films and similar works shall be subject to the tax provided under subsection 28 of this code. Provided furthermore that interest income from long-term deposit or investment in the form of savings, common or individual trust funds, deposit substitutes, investment management accounts, and other investment evidenced by certificates in such form prescribed by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas or BSP shall be exempt from the tax imposed under this subsection. No? So provided finally that should the holder of the certificate pre-terminate the deposit or investment before the 5th year, so same pa rin kanina, no? Pagka yung meron siyang time deposit tapos hindi niya inabot dun sa 5 years, magbabayad na siya ng final tax na mas mataas, no? 4 years to less than 5 years, 5%, 3 years to less than 4 years, 12%, and 20% pag less than 3 years. No? Mas mataas na. Also, capital gains realized from sale, barter, exchange of shares of stocks in domestic corporation, not traded through the local stock exchange and real property, subject to the tax prescribed under subsection C and D of section 24. No? So, magkano yun? 6%. No? Non-resident alien individual not engaged or trade or business in the Philippines. Bakit? Kasi hindi siya umabot ng 180 days. No? So, there shall be levied, collected, and paid for its taxable year upon the entire income received from all sources within the Philippines by every non-resident alien individual not engaged in trade or business within the Philippines as interest, cash and or property dividends, rent, salaries, wages, premiums, annuities, compensation, remuneration, emoluments, or other fixed or determinable annual or periodic or casual gains, profits, and income and capital gains, a tax equal to 25% of such income. So, pag sinabi mong 25% of such income, walang deduction, 25% of the gross, no? Yan ang babayaran pagka non-resident alien individual ka. Kasi ang resident alien individual naman, kagaya ang taxation niya, ang tax rate niya with the resident citizen. No? Since ito, non-resident alien individual not engaged in trade or business siya, 25% yung babayaran niya na tax based doon sa kanyang income. Walang deductions. No? Capital gains realized by a non-resident alien individual not engaged in trade or business in the Philippines from the sale of shares of stocks in any domestic corporation and real property shall be subject to the income tax prescribed under subsection C and D of section 24. Okay. Alien employed by the regional or area headquarters and regional operating headquarters of multinational companies. Ito yung na-veto ng ating presidente, no? President Duterte. Kasi binito niya ito during the train law, no? So, magkano yung tax? There shall be levied, collected, and paid for its taxable year upon the gross income received by every alien individual employed by regional or area headquarters and regional operating headquarters established in the Philippines by multinational companies as salaries, wages, annuities, compensation, remuneration, and other emoluments such as honoraria and allowances from such regional or area headquarters and regional operating headquarters, a tax equal to 15% of such gross income, no? Provided, however, that the same tax treatment shall apply to Filipinos employed and occupying the same position as those of aliens employed by these multinational companies. So for purposes of this chapter, the term multinational company means a foreign firm or entity engaged in international trade with affiliates or subsidiaries or branch offices in the Asia-Pacific region and other foreign markets. No? So 15% of the gross. Okay. Alien individual employed by offshore banking units. No? So this shall be levied, collected, and paid for its taxable year upon the gross income received by every alien individual employed by offshore banking units established in the Philippines as salaries, wages, annuities, compensation, remuneration, and other emoluments such as honoraria and allowances from such offshore banking units, a tax equal to 15% of such gross income, provided, however, that the same tax treatment shall apply to Filipinos employed and occupying the same position as those of aliens employed by these offshore banking units. Ito yung reciprocity rule, no? So dapat ganun din yung treatment nila sa Filipinos doon sa bansa nila, no? Meron pa ng shout out? May question?
Wala pa ma'am, pero shout out ma'am. Si Sir Josefino Relien ma'am.
Sir Josefino, no? Good evening.
Tapos si Ma'am Ami Oclarit.
Pero si Sir Rillian hindi sumali sa ating tax update, no? Di ba siya nasabihan nung Hari? Hindi siya nakasama. Sana si Hari? Lahat ng email, no? So hindi sila nakasama doon sa tax updates natin. Half day din yun via Zoom.
Si Ma'am Ami Oclarit ma'am. Shout
Okay,
out.
shout out Miss Ma'am Ami, no? Good evening po.
Si Ma'am RG.
Oy, ako napakasipag. Yan si Ma'am RG kasama sa ating tax update, no? Napakasipag, no? Okay. So, proceed lang po tayo. Kung may mga questions po kayo, i-entertain natin, no? Pero kung wala, tuloy lang po tayo, no? So, letter E, alien individual employed by petroleum service contractor and subcontractor, no? So, alien individual who is a permanent resident of a foreign country but who is employed and assigned in the Philippines by a foreign service contractor or by a foreign service subcontractor engaged in petroleum operations in the Philippines shall be liable to a tax of 15% of the salaries, wages, annuities, compensation, remuneration, and other emoluments, such as honoraria and allowances received from such contractor or subcontractor. No? So, yan ang babayaran po niya dito sa Pilipinas, 15% ng kanyang income. Provided, however, that the same tax treatment shall apply to a Filipino employed and occupying the same position as an alien employed by petroleum service contractor and subcontractor. No? Same treatment. Any income earned from all other sources within the Philippines by the alien employees referred to under subsection C, D, and E hereof shall be subject to the pertinent income tax as the case may be imposed under this code. No? So, yun yung tax na babayaran nila. Ano naman itong letter F na preferential tax treatment? No? Preferential tax treatment provided in subsection C, D, and E of this section shall not be applicable to regional headquarters, regional operating headquarters, offshore banking units, or petroleum service contractors and subcontractors registering with the Securities and Exchange Commission. So, nakaregister na sa Securities and Exchange Commission after January 1, 2018. No? Ano tong nangyari dito sa January 1, 2018? Ito na yung nag-take effect yung train law natin, no? Provided, however, that existing regional headquarters, no, or regional operating headquarters, offshore banking units, or petroleum service contractors and subcontractors presently availing of preferential tax rates for qualified employees shall continue to be entitled to avail of the preferential tax rate for present and future qualified employees, no? Kasi nga ito yung sabi ko sa inyo na naveto na ang tax rates. Tax na sila as in locals, no? So the amendments introduced by the train law in section 6F was vetoed by the President, no? Ito yung sinabi dun sa veto message. Ang sabi ni Presidente, I am constrained to veto the provision under section 6F of the enrolled bill that effectively maintains the special tax rate of 15% of gross income for the aforementioned employees to it. Provided, however, that existing regional headquarters, regional operating headquarters, offshore banking units, or petroleum service contractors and subcontractors presently availing of preferential tax rates for qualified employees shall continue to be entitled to avail of the preferential tax rate for present and future qualified employees. While I understand the laudable objective of the proposal, the provision is violative of the Equal Protection Clause under Section 1, Article 3 of the 1987 Constitution, as well as the rule of equity and uniformity in the application of the burden of taxation. So ito yung sinight niya na dahilan, no? Yung Equal Protection Clause sa Constitution po natin. Section 1, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall any person be denied the equal protection of the laws. No? So in line with this overriding consideration is the promotion of fairness of the tax system for individuals performing similar work. Given the significant reduction in the personal income tax, the employees of this firm should follow the regular tax rates applicable to other individual taxpayers. So, yan po yung sabi niya, the regular tax rates applicable to other individual taxpayers. So, same with the local employees, no? Okay.
Ma'am, may question, ma'am.
Okay.
Tanong po ni Sir Joe Marie, ma'am. Need pa po ba ng accreditation like from LTO for logistics, FDA for drugstore to register yung business sa BIR?
Hindi po. Hindi nila hinahanap yung mga FDA na yan. Ang hinahanap lang nila yung barangay at saka yung mayor's permit at saka yung DTI para sa business name. Pero yung mga FDA, mga kahit na after na ng BIR sa kanyo i-process, pumapay po yung BIR.
Hindi pa lang, ma'am, question.
Kasi bakit? Matagal. Ang permit na yan, matagal yan sa FDA. No? Minsan di pa na-approve. No? So, meron kaming ganyang client, in-approve naman ng BIR, pero yung kanyang FDA, hindi talaga na-approve. No? Okay. So, Section 26, Tax Liability of Members of General Professional Partnerships. Ano po itong General Professional Partnerships? Ito yung partnerships ng mga practice in profession, na pareho sila ng profession. So, general professional partnership as such shall not be subject to the income tax imposed under this chapter. No? Persons engaging in business as partners in a general professional partnership shall be liable to income tax only their separate and individual capacities. So, di ba, nag-form sila ng partnership. Ngayon, itong yung kanilang partnership, naka-register po yan sa SEC, kasi professional sila lahat, yung partnership hindi subject to tax, pero itong income nila from the partnership, pinaghati-hatian na nila, at nandyan na sa kanila as individual partner, recipient of the income coming from general professional partnerships, taxable na yun sa kanila in their individual capacity. No? So, not necessarily na exempt yung general professional partnerships. Hindi lang siya sinubject dahil isa-subject siya sa individual pag na-receive na. No? para hindi madoble-doble yung tax. So for purposes of computing the distributive share of the partners, the net income of the partnership shall be computed in the same manner as the corporation. No? Kasi yung partnership tax yan as corporations. Each partner shall report as gross income his distributive share, actually or constructively received in the net income of the partnership. No? So, bawat partner, since sila yung tumanggap ng income galing sa partnership, sila yung may liability or required to submit or to file their income tax return at bayaran nila yung tax due dun sa income that they receive from the partnership, no? So, yun po. Okay. So, we're done with the tax on individual, no? Let's now go to the tax on corporations, no? Okay. Section 27. Okay. Section 27, rates of income tax on domestic corporation. Magkano yung income tax ng domestic corporation? Letter A, in general, except as otherwise provided, an income tax of 35% is hereby imposed upon the taxable income derived during its taxable year. Ito ay rate pa noong Republic Act 8424, no? Yung comprehensive income tax ng 1998. Itong 35%, nagbago na po ito during the Republic Act 9337 noong 2005, no? Ginawa na itong 30%. So right now, our income tax rate is 30%, no? So imposed upon the taxable income derived during its taxable year from all sources within and without, no? January 1, 2009, rate of income shall be 30%. So hindi pala 2005, no? So I stand corrected, no? So within and without the Philippines by every corporation as defined in section 22B, no, this code. So taxable under this title as a corporation organized in or existing under the laws of the Philippines. So effective January 1, 2009, the rate of income tax shall be 30%. January 2009. Okay. So in the case of corporations adopting the fiscal year accounting period, ano yung pagkakaiba ng accounting period? Fiscal year at saka calendar year, no? Pag fiscal year, any month except January yung kanyang beginning. Pagka sinabi mo naman na calendar year, January ang beginning, ang end niya ng taxable year niya is December, no? Okay. Only corporations are allowed to use fiscal year. Individuals use only calendar year. Okay. The income and expenses for the fiscal year shall be deemed to have been earned and spent equally for each month of the period, no? Corporate income tax rate shall be applied on the amount computed by multiplying the number of months covered by the new rate within the fiscal year by the taxable income of the corporation for the period divided by 12. Ito kung during the taxable year nagbago yung rate, no? Pero yung nakita naman natin that the rate is effective January 1, 2009. No? So kung calendar year siya, so tama lang. Pero kung fiscal year, so magkaroon talaga siya ng hiwalay na computation. Okay. The President, upon recommendation of the Secretary of Finance, may effective January 1, 2000, allow corporations the option to be taxed at 15% of gross income as defined therein after the following conditions have been satisfied. So, pwede siyang magbayad ng tax ng 50% sa gross income, no? If a tax effort ratio of 20% of the gross national product, no? So yung tax effort ratio is 20% ng gross national product. Or if a ratio of 40% of income tax collection to total revenues, no? So kung meron siyang 40% ng income tax collection to total tax revenues, pwede siya mag-avail ng 15% na rate on corporation based on gross income. No? Number 3, a VAT tax effort of 4% of GNP, no? Gross national product. Ano yung tax effort of 4%, no? So yun yung malaki yung babayaran niya sa tax, no? 0.9% ratio of the consolidated public sector financial position, no, to GNP, gross national product. The option to be taxed based on gross income shall be available only to firms whose ratio of cost of sales to gross sales or receipts from all sources does not exceed 55%, no? Does not exceed 55%. So pwede kang mag-tax ng 15% on gross income. So ang daming requirements para ma-avail mo yung 15% na tax on gross income. Election of the gross income tax option by the corporation shall be irrevocable for 3 years. Pag pili mo na yung gross income tax option, then for the next 3 years, hindi mo pwedeng palitan, no? Okay. So consecutive taxable years during which the corporation is qualified under the scheme. Okay. For purposes of this section, the term gross income derived from business shall be equivalent to gross sales less sales returns, discount, and allowances, and cost of goods sold. No? Cost of goods sold shall include all business expenses directly incurred to produce the merchandise to bring them to their present location and use. Okay. For trading or merchandising concern, cost of goods sold shall include the invoice cost of the goods sold plus import duties, freight in transporting the goods to the place where the goods are actually sold, including insurance while the goods are in transit. No? Okay, so take note of that. For a manufacturing concern, cost of goods manufactured and sold shall include all cost of production of finished goods such as raw materials used, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead, freight cost, insurance premium, other costs incurred to bring the raw materials to the factory or warehouse. No? So, may mga determination tayo of what are the costs included. No? So, in the case of taxpayers engaged in sale or of service, gross income means gross receipts, returns, allowances, and discounts. No? Okay. So, yun yung ating taxation sa income. Okay. May question.
Galing ma'am kay Ma'am RG, ma'am.
Okay.
Question niya po, need to withhold tax po ba if example, start ng business ng October na di lalampas ang taxable salary ng employees sa 250,000?
October na. So hindi mag-annualize na po kayo ng withholding para malaman nyo kung mag-withhold pa kayo o hindi. No? Ano ibig sabihin na annualize? Compute mo na yung total income niya up to December or the whole income niya during the year. Kasi may mga exempt naman, kagaya ng mga bonus, kagaya ng mga PhilHealth contributions, mayroon naman mga exemptions. So, mag-annualize na kayo as if ginawa mo na siya ng withholding for the year, total for the year. Okay. Wala na?
Okay na po.
Okay. Asan si Hari? Patayin mo yung mga lamok. Sobra, no? Sakit mga gat. Nandito lang yan. Okay. Punta na tayo sa special corporations, no? Sa taxation ng special corporations, proprietary educational institutions and hospitals. Actually, meron po tayo dyan na meron tayo dyan ng, anong tawag dito? Tax compliance for private hospitals and corporations, no? Dali lang po mga ka-YouTubers. Sakit. Nandiyan na yan, doon ka banda, oh. Pa doon. Oh, namatay na. Saan yun?
Dito lang. Google.
Oh. Ito sa ilalim. Yan sila. Okay. So, ito yung proprietary educational institutions as hospitals and hospitals, they are considered as special corporations. Why? Kasi sila yung may preferential tax rates. Ano yung preferential tax rates nila? 10% on the taxable income. Unlike yung ibang mga corporations na 30%, no? Yeah. Diyan, no? Ilalim. Diyan yan sila. Diyan yan sila. Marami. Yun. Marami. Yan. Kaya pala ang sakit eh. Wow. Oh, daming lamok. Dito. Kaya masakit sa paa. Sabi ko na eh. Okay. Diyan talaga sila. Dami. Okay. So, proprietary educational institutions and hospitals which are non-profit, shall pay a tax of 10% on their taxable income. So, except those covered by subsection D hereof, provided that if the gross income from unrelated trade, business, or other activity exceeds 50% of the total gross income derived by such educational institution or hospitals from all sources, the tax prescribed in subsection A hereof shall be imposed on the entire taxable income. Oh, ito yung tinatawag natin na auxiliary income, no? So, for purposes of this subsection, the term unrelated trade or business or other activity means any trade, business, or other activity, the conduct of which is not substantially related to the exercise or performance by such educational institution or hospital of its primary purpose. Ano ba yung primary purpose ng hospital at saka educational institution? No, yung educational institution, school, so education. Ano naman yung hospitals? Sa panggagamot, no, ng mga may sakit, no? So, proprietary educational institution is any private school maintained and administered by private individuals or groups with an issued permit to operate from the Department of Education, Culture, and Sports, no? Si school nga. Or the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, or the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or the TESDA, as the case may be, in accordance with existing laws and regulations. Ito yung sa school, no? Anong ibig sabihin dito na yung income niya should not exceed 50%, no? The other activity. Ito yung tinatawag natin na ancillary income. Halimbawa, yung school is nag-operate siya ng school and at the same time nag-operate siya ng bookstore. Nag-operate siya ng canteen. Nag-operate siya ng parking. Nagpapabayad siya ng parking. Ng dorm. Pagka ang income niya coming from these ancillary activities niya is more than 50%, no? Exceed 50% doon sa kanyang income ng tuition fee, then the total gross income ng educational institution or the hospitals from all sources, no, i-impose na yung 30% na rate, hindi na yung 10% na preferential rate, no? Example, halimbawa yung hospital, yung income niya sa hospital, sa mga patients niya, during the year is 10 million, no? Pero itong hospital na to, meron siyang pharmaceutical, no? May butika siya, nagtitinda ng mga gamot, meron siyang parking, meron siyang dorm na halimbawa, no? Yung income niya from that ancillary activities niya, 10 million yung income niya from the hospital. Ito namang other income niya, umabot ng 15 million, no? So, anong treatment yan? Hindi na siya qualified doon sa preferential tax rate na 10%. Nasaan na siya? Sa regular na 30% tax rate on net income, no? As corporation. Doon na siya sa ordinary corporations, no? So, mawawala na sa kanya yung 10% na preferential tax rate, no? Okay. Ano naman tong government-owned or controlled corporations, agencies, or instrumentalities? Ito yung mga GOCCs natin na government-owned and controlled corporations sila pero they are doing business, no? Okay, so provisions of existing special or general laws to the contrary notwithstanding, all corporations, agencies, or instrumentalities owned or controlled by the government except the Government Service Insurance System or GSIS, the Social Security System, the Philippine Health Insurance Corporation or PHIC, and the local water district shall pay such rate of tax upon their taxable income as are imposed by section upon corporations or associations engaged in similar business, industry, or activity. So, subject din sila sa 30%, no? Sino lang yung hindi? The GSIS, the SSS, the PhilHealth, and the local water district. Sila yung exempt, no? But all others. Okay. So, letter D, rates of tax on certain passive income. Anong ibig sabihin ng passive income? Passive, meaning hindi active, no? So, how much is the rate? At saka anong klase mga income to? So, interest from deposits and yield or any other monetary benefit from deposit substitutes and from trust funds and similar arrangements and royalties, magkano tax rate? Final tax at the rate of 20%, no? Imposed upon the amount of interest on currency bank deposit and yield or any other monetary benefit from deposit substitutes and from trust funds, similar arrangements received by domestic corporations and royalties derived from sources within the Philippines, provided, however, that interest income derived by a domestic corporation from a depository bank under the expanded foreign currency deposit system shall be subject to a final income tax at the rate of 15% of such interest income. So, mas lower po yung rate sa expanded foreign deposit system, 15%. Pero sa hindi, no, local banks, subject siya sa 20% na final tax, no? Yan yung mga passive income. Okay? Anong pagkakaiba ng passive income at saka active income? Pag sinabi mong passive income, wala ka nang gagawin. Magkakaroon ka lang ng income. Pero sa active income, you still have to do the activity or perform an action in order to earn the income, no? Sa interest, ano ba yung gagawin mo dito in order to earn the interest? Wala ka nang gagawin. Bakit? Kasi pera mo yung pera mo na sa bangko, siya yung magtatrabaho, siya yung magkikita, siya yung mag-earn interest para sa'yo, no? So, capital gains from the sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange, a final tax at the rate of 15% shall be imposed on net capital gains realized during the taxable year from the sale, exchange, or other disposition of shares of stocks in a domestic corporation except shares sold or disposed of through the stocks exchange, no? So, same lang din sa individual. Ito, ano na to sa corporations na. So, final tax of 15%, no? Ang babayaran. Tax on income derived under the expanded foreign currency deposit system, magkano yung rates niya? 10%, no? Final tax at the rate of 10%. So, tax on any income of non-resident, whether individuals or corporation, from transactions with depository banks under the expanded system shall be exempt from income tax. So, yung mga expanded system na depository banks natin, no, from income ng non-residents, no, whether individual or corporations, hindi po siya subject sa tax. No? How about intercorporate dividends? Dividends received by a domestic corporation from another domestic corporation shall not be subject to tax, no? Kasi pagka corporation makatanggap ng dividend from another corporation, exempt sa tax. Pero individual makatanggap ng dividend from corporation, 10% na final tax on dividend, no? But intercorporate dividends is exempt, walang babayaran na tax. Okay. Capital gains realized from the sale, exchange, or disposition of lands or buildings, no? So, ang corporation nagbenta siya ng land and or buildings. Final tax of 6% is hereby imposed on the gain presumed to have been realized on the sale, exchange, or disposition of lands and or buildings which are not actually used in the business of a corporation. Not actually used, meaning capital assets, no? In the business of a corporation and are treated as capital assets, so hindi siya ordinary assets, no? So dito sa section na to, sa train law, mayroon na tayong tinatawag na capital assets yung corporation. Based on the gross selling price of the fair market value as determined in accordance with section 6E of this code, whichever is higher of such land and or building. So, titingnan pa rin yung zonal value. So, based on the higher value, doon na i-impose yung 6% na final tax. No? Okay. So, itong minimum corporate income tax ng domestic corporations, no? Sandali lang po at ako ay magbe-break ng 5 minutes, no? So, break po tayo sa Okay? Okay na?
Okay na po.
May sounds?
Okay po.
Okay, so let's move on, no? Now let's go to the minimum corporate income tax on domestic corporation, no? This is another kind of tax. Iba pa yung 30% na tax on net income. This is another kind of tax na babayaran po ng corporation, no? At paano to kinocompute? So, imposition of tax. The minimum corporate income tax of 2%, 2% ang rate nito, no? Based on the gross income as of the end of the taxable year as defined herein, is imposed on corporation taxable under this title, beginning on the fourth taxable year, no? Immediately following the year in which such corporation commenced its business operations. So, yung first year of operation ng corporation, hindi mo na siya itatax ng 2% sa minimum corporate income tax. After na lang ng tawag dito, ng 3 years, doon sa fourth year, doon na siya magbabayad ng 2% on the gross income. When we say gross income, no, ibig sabihin nun, sales less direct cost or cost of sales equals gross income. So, doon po i-multiply yung 2%, no? Okay. So, when the minimum income tax is greater than the tax computed under subsection A, yun yung sa net income of this section for the taxable year. So, i-compare ngayon yung MCIT, minimum corporate income tax return as against the normal income tax, whichever is higher, yun po yung babayaran ng corporation, no? Carry forward of excess minimum tax, no? Any excess of the minimum corporate income tax over the normal income tax as computed under subsection A of this section shall be carried forward and credited against the normal income tax for the 3 immediately succeeding taxable years. So, halimbawa, malaki ang binayaran ng MCIT, no? As against the normal tax. Yung excess doon, pwede mong i-carry as long as 3 years. Kasi after 3 years, mag-expire na po siya. Hindi mo na siya pwedeng i-carry over, no? So, yung minimum corporate income tax on domestic corporation na 2% on gross income, pwede mo pa siyang i-carry over kung mas maliit yung normal na income tax, no? So, relief from the minimum corporate income tax under certain conditions, no? Sobra. Dali lang nga sumubra yung aking pindot eh. Okay. Relief from the minimum corporate income tax under certain conditions, no? So the Secretary of Finance is hereby authorized, no, to suspend the imposition of the minimum corporate income tax on any corporation which suffers losses on account of prolonged labor disputes or because of force majeure or because of legitimate business reverses. So, siguro itong pandemic, no, posibleng if a corporation will apply, pwedeng consider ito na business reverses para di ka na magbayad ng 2% na minimum corporate income tax return or the MCIT, no? Secretary of Finance hereby authorized to promulgate upon recommendation of the Commissioner the necessary rules and regulations that shall define the terms and conditions under which he may suspend the imposition of the minimum corporate income tax in a meritorious case, no? So, gross income defined for purposes of applying the minimum corporate income tax provided under subsection A hereof. The term gross income shall mean gross sales, less sales returns, discounts, allowances, cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold shall include all business expenses directly incurred to produce the merchandise to bring them to their present location and use. So, in short, yung gross income, less direct cost, no? Kasi kung service yung gross income mo, yung income mo, so less direct cost. Kung halimbawa sale of goods naman, less cost of sales, no? So for trading or merchandising concern, cost of goods sold shall include the invoice cost of the goods sold plus import duties sa mga imported goods, freight in transporting the goods to the place where the goods are actually sold, including insurance while the goods are in transit, no? For a manufacturing concern, cost of goods manufactured and sold shall include all cost of production of finished goods such as raw materials used, direct labor, manufacturing overhead, freight cost, insurance premiums, and other costs incurred to bring the raw materials to the factory or warehouse. So, pwede i-deduct, no? Itong sinasabi dito na kasama sa cost of goods manufactured and sold in order to arrive at the gross income, no? So, i-deduct mo lahat to para ma-derive mo yung gross income and then multiply by 2%, yun ang babayaran mo na minimum corporate income tax. Okay. In the case of taxpayers engaged in the sale of service, no? Gross income means gross receipt, less sales returns, allowances, discount, cost of services, no? The cost of services shall mean all direct costs and expenses necessarily incurred to provide the services required by the customers and clients, including salaries and employees, benefits of personnel, consultants and specialists directly rendering the service, and cost of facilities directly utilized in providing the service, such as depreciation or rental of equipment used, and cost of supplies, provided, however, that in the case of banks, cost of services shall include interest expense. Bakit kasama ang interest expense sa direct cost? Kasi iba ang nature ng business ng banks, no? So yung negosyo niya is talagang, ang income niya is interest, no? Kaya direct cost niya yung interest expense. Okay? So yun po yung tax on domestic corporations. Now, let us go to Section 28, the rates of income tax on foreign corporations. So this time foreign naman, kanina domestic. No? So what is the tax on resident foreign corporation? Okay, so except as otherwise provided in this code, a corporation organized, authorized, or existing under the laws of any foreign country engaged in trade or business within the Philippines shall be subject to an income tax equivalent to 35% of the taxable income derived in the preceding taxable year from all sources within the Philippines, provided effective January 1, 2009, the rate of income tax shall be 30%. So from 35, nagiging 30% siya. So in the case of corporations adopting the fiscal year accounting period, the taxable income shall be computed without regard to the specific date when sales, purchases, and other transactions occur. No? So their income and expenses for the fiscal year shall be deemed to have been earned and spent equally for each month of the period. No? Okay. So corporate income tax shall be applied on the amount computed by multiplying the number of months covered by the new rate within the fiscal year by the taxable income of the corporation for the period divided by 12. No? So resident foreign corporation granted the option to be taxed at 15%. Resident foreign tax like domestic corporation. So pwede din siyang mamili kung i-tax siya ng 15% on gross income under the same conditions, yung binanggit po natin kanina. No? Minimum corporate income tax on resident foreign corporation, same also with the domestic corporation. Okay. Number 3, international carrier. An international carrier doing business in the Philippines shall pay a tax of 2.5% on the gross Philippine billings as defined hereunder. No? So, international carrier, no? Okay. 2.5% on gross Philippine billings. Ay, yung gross Philippine billings. For international air carrier, gross Philippine billings refers to the amount of gross revenue derived from carriage of persons, excess baggage, cargo, and mail originating from the Philippines in a continuous and uninterrupted flight. Yan may requirement siya. Irrespective of the place of sale or issue and the place of payment of the ticket or passage document, provided the tickets revalidated, exchanged, and or endorsed to another international airline form part of the gross Philippine billings. So if the passenger boards a plane in a port or point in the Philippines, provided further that for a flight which originates from the Philippines but transshipment of passenger takes place at any part outside the Philippines or another airline, only the aliquot portion of the cost of the ticket corresponding to the leg flown from the Philippines to the point of transshipment shall form part of gross Philippine billings. No? So, define po dito yung gross Philippine billings ng international air carrier. Ito yung mga aeroplano. No? How about international shipping? Gross Philippine billings means gross revenue, whether for passenger, cargo, or mail originating from the Philippines up to final destination, regardless of the place of sale or payments of the passage or freight documents. So, sino nakakaalam dito? International shipping, kasi sila yung nakakaalam ng kanilang mga ticket na sold, no? So, magkakaroon sila ng declaration pagdating po dito sa Pilipinas. Provided that international carriers doing business in the Philippines may avail of a preferential rate or exemption from the tax therein imposed on their gross revenue derived from the carriage of persons and their excess baggage on the basis of an applicable tax treaty or international agreement. No? So, kung may mga tax treaty tayo with that country or international agreement where the Philippines is a signatory, then on the basis of reciprocity such that an international carrier whose home country grants income tax exemption to Philippine carriers shall likewise be exempt from the tax imposed under this provision. No? So, kung yung country kung saan registered yung ship provide exemption sa Filipino carrier, then exempted po siya dito. No? Siguro yun yung gesture ng being friendly, no? And siguro nire-reciprocate mo lang din yung treatment nila sa Filipino. No? Okay. Question?
Wala po.
May nakikinig pa?
Meron pa, ma'am.
Okay. So, offshore banking units, no? For the offshore banking units, the provisions of any law to the contrary notwithstanding, income derived by offshore banking units authorized by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas from foreign currency transactions with non-residents, other offshore banking units, local commercial banks, including branches of foreign banks that may be authorized by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to transact business with offshore banking units shall be exempt from all taxes except net income from such transactions as may be specified by the Secretary of Finance, upon recommendation of the Monetary Board, which shall be subject to the regular income tax payable by banks. Provided, however, that any interest income derived from foreign currency loans granted to residents other than offshore banking units of local commercial banks, including local branches of foreign banks that may be authorized by the BSP to transact business with offshore banking units shall be subject only to a final tax at the rate of 10%, no? So 10% siya kung interest income derived from foreign currency loans granted to residents, no? So 10%. Any income of non-residents, whether individuals or corporations, from transactions with said offshore banking units shall be exempt, no, from income tax. No? So, ito yung mga OBU. offshore banking units. No? Okay. Ito tayo sa tax on branch profit remittances. No? Ano tong branch profit remittances? Okay. So ito yung mga taxation ng mga foreign corporations. So number 5, tax on branch profit remittances. Magkano to? 15%. So any profit remitted by a branch to its head office shall be subject to a tax of 15%, which shall be based on the total profits applied or earmarked for remittance without any deduction for the tax component thereof, except those activities which are registered with the Philippine Economic Zone Authority or the PEZA. No? The tax shall be collected and paid in the same manner as provided in Section 57 and 58 of this code, provided that interest, dividends, rents, royalties, including remuneration for technical services, salaries, wages, premiums, annuities, emoluments, or other fixed or determinable annual, periodic, or casual gains, profits, income, and capital gains received by a foreign corporation during its taxable year from all sources within the Philippines shall not be treated as branch profits unless the same are effectively connected with the conduct of its trade or business in the Philippines. So magkano itong branch profit remittances? Binabayad po ito pagka ang branch ng isang company na nandito sa Pilipinas, magre-remit siya ng profit sa head office niya. No? Ito yung issue ng tinatawag natin na permanent establishment. Ano ba yung permanent establishment under the tax treaty or under the OECD convention? Ito yung treatment na ang branch, no? So itong tinatawag natin na permanent establishments, i-determine mo kung yung isang company meron ba siyang permanent establishment or branch in the Philippines, so that pag nag-remit siya ngayon ng branch profit sa head office niya, magbabayad na po siya ng tax, no, dito sa Pilipinas. Kasi yung iba, hindi nila ini-establish na wala kaming permanent establishment dito sa Pilipinas, no? But the moment na ma-establish mo na meron silang permanent establishment, then they will be liable for this 15% branch profit remittance, no? Okay. So regional or area headquarters and regional operating headquarters of multinational companies, no? So regional or area headquarters defined in section 22D, they shall not be subject to income tax, no? Kasi ang sabi nila dyan, wala naman silang operations, ano lang, management lang, wala raw business. Regional operating headquarters defined in section 22E shall pay a tax of 10% of their taxable income. Yun yung mga may business operations na sa Pilipinas, no? So tax on certain incomes received by a resident foreign corporation. So ano to? Yung income received by resident foreign corporation, no? So interest from deposits and yield or any other monetary benefits from deposit substitutes, trust fund, and similar arrangement and royalties. We're still talking about foreign corporation. Ito yung income na na-receive nila. So magkano yung tax doon sa interest na yon? 20% of such interest, no? Anong klaseng tax yun? Final tax, no? Kasi interest. So usually, tingnan natin pagka ang nature ng income, interest, royalties, subject yan sila sa final tax, no? Of 20%, no? Provided, however, that interest income derived by a resident foreign corporation from a depository bank under the expanded foreign currency deposit system shall be subject to a final tax at the rate of 7.5% of such interest income. So pagdating na sa bangko, iba yung interest rate niya, no? 7.5% lang. Okay. So income derived under the expanded foreign currency deposit system, no? So income derived by the depository bank under the expanded foreign currency deposit system from foreign currency transactions with non-resident offshore banking units in the Philippines local commercial banks, including branches of foreign banks that may be authorized by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to transact business with foreign currency deposit system units and other depository banks, no, under the expanded foreign currency deposit system shall be exempt from all taxes, no? So iba ito, expanded foreign currency deposit system. Exempt from all taxes, except net income from such transaction as may be specified by the Secretary of Finance upon recommendation by the Monetary Board to be subject to the regular income tax payable by banks, no? Provided, however, that interest income from foreign currency loans granted by such depository banks under said expanded system to residents other than offshore banking units in the Philippines or other depository banks under the expanded system shall be subject to a final tax at the rate of 10%. No? So, 10% pagka yung mga foreign currency loans granted by depository banks. No? 10%. Any income of non-resident, whether individual or corporation from transactions with depository bank under the expanded system shall be exempt from income tax. No? So, yung income ng non-resident and also individuals or corporations exempt from income tax. No? Okay. So, ito yung capital gains from sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stock exchange, no? A final tax at the rates prescribed below is hereby imposed upon the net capital gains realized during the taxable year from the sale, barter, exchange, or other disposition of shares of stocks in a domestic corporation, except, no, shares sold or disposed through the stock exchange, no? Not over 100,000, 5%. On any amount in excess of 100,000, 10%. No? So, intercorporate dividends or dividends received by resident foreign corporation from a domestic corporation liable to tax under the code shall not be subject to tax under this title. No? Yung intercorporate dividends, ibig sabihin, yung dividend ng foreign corporation from domestic corporation, hindi po siya subject sa tax. No? Okay. Asa na yung pamatay ng lamok, Hari? Diyan na naman ulit. Meron sandali. Excuse lang po, sandali lang. Ay, may nangangagat na. Okay, so go. Tax on non-resident foreign corporation. Non-resident foreign corporation. So, ito na. Except as otherwise provided, no? So, yung tax na babayaran ng non-resident is 35%, pero since January 2009, the tax shall be 30%, no, sa non-resident foreign corporation. Non-resident cinematographic film owner, lessor, or distributor shall pay a tax of 25% of its gross income from sources within the Philippines. So, 25% of gross, no? So, non-resident, ito yung mga film, no, ng mga lessor na pinapalabas dito sa Pilipinas. Non-resident owner or lessor of vessels chartered by Philippine nationals, magkano yung tax? 4.5% of gross rentals, lease or charter fees from leases or charters to Filipino citizen or corporation as approved by the Maritime Industry Authority or the Marina. So, magkano ang tax? 4.5%. Sa cinematographic film, 25% of the gross income. Okay. Ito namang non-resident owner or lessor of aircraft, machineries, and other equipment. No? So rental, charters, and other fees derived by a non-resident lessor or of aircraft, machineries, and other equipment shall be subject to a tax of 7.5% of gross rentals or fees. No? 7.5%. Okay. Tax on certain income received by non-resident foreign corporations. So interest on foreign loans, final tax at the rate of 20% is hereby imposed on the amount of interest on foreign loans contracted on or after August 1, 1986. So matagal na. Also intercorporate dividends. Final tax at the rate of 15% is hereby imposed on the amount of cash and or property dividends received from a domestic corporation which shall be paid as provided in Section 57, yung final withholding tax, no, of this code, subject to the condition that the country in which the non-resident foreign corporation is domiciled shall allow a credit against the tax due from the non-resident foreign corporation taxes deemed to have been paid in the Philippines, equivalent to 20%, with which represent the difference between the regular income tax rate of 35% and the 15% tax on dividends as provided in the subparagraph. Provided that effective January 1, 2009, kasi 30% na lang yung corporate income tax noong 2009, the credit against the tax due shall be equivalent to 15% na lang. No? From 20%, naging 15% siya, represents the difference between the regular income tax of 30% and the 15% tax on dividends. No? So ito yung mga tax on incomes received by non-resident foreign corporation. No? So, yung intercorporate dividends niya is subject to tax. No? Capital gains from sale of shares of stocks not traded in the stocks exchange, ito yung not over 100,000, 5%, and on any amount in excess of 100,000, 10%. No? Imposition of improperly accumulated earnings tax. Ano tong improperly accumulated earnings tax under Section 29? Ito yung 10%, no? Based on the improperly accumulated taxable income. No? So, tax on corporation subject to improperly accumulated income tax. So, sa corporation lang po ito, yung individual walang improperly accumulated earnings tax. No? Okay. The improperly accumulated earnings tax imposed in the preceding section shall apply to every corporation's formed or availed for the purpose of avoiding the income tax with respect to its shareholders or the shareholders of any other corporation by permitting earnings and profits to accumulate instead of being divided or distributed. Yung sobra-sobra na yung written earnings niya, hindi siya nag-declare ng dividend, no? So, nandun pa. Anong gagawin ng buyer sa kanya? I-tax siya ngayon ng improperly accumulated earnings tax as provided for under this section, no? Shall not apply, ibig sabihin, hindi kasama dito ang publicly held corporations, yung banks and other non-banks financial intermediaries, and the insurance companies. Bakit? May mga special law po na nagre-regulate sa kanila dyan na hindi nila na kagaya ng insurance, kagaya ng banks, publicly held corporations, na meron talaga silang appropriated na mga earnings, no? Na hindi pwedeng galawin, hindi pwedeng ibigay na dividendo, no? So, hindi sila kasali dun sa improperly accumulated earnings tax, no? Evidence of purpose to avoid income tax. Prima facie evidence, the fact that the corporation is a mere holding company or investment company shall be prima facie evidence of a purpose to avoid the tax upon its shareholders or members. Kasi wala naman siyang business activity. Ang activity niya, holding company lang. So, bakit hindi niya ibibigay yung mga earnings doon sa kung sino man yung may-ari? No? Evidence determinative of purpose. The fact that the earnings or profits of a corporation are permitted to accumulate beyond the reasonable needs of the business shall be determinative of the purpose to avoid the tax upon its shareholders or members unless the corporation by the clear preponderance of evidence shall prove to the contrary. Ano tong mga excuses ng company dito sa improperly accumulated earnings tax? Maglalagay lang sila doon ng appropriation, no? Appropriated yung retained earnings, kaya hindi nila pwedeng declare as dividend, no? So improperly accumulated taxable income, no? So improperly accumulated taxable income means taxable income adjusted by income exempt from tax, income excluded from gross income, income subject to final tax, amount of net operating loss carryover deducted, no? And reduced by the sum. So, yung mga item na yan, i-add mo sa income niya, and then i-reduce mo by the dividends actually or constructively paid, yung na-declare na niya, napamigay na dividend, and income tax paid for the taxable year. So that malalaman mo ngayon how much is the accumulated income, no? So for corporation using calendar year basis, the accumulated earning tax shall not apply on improperly accumulated income as of December 31, 1997. Kasi nung December 31, 1997, wala pa pong batas ng improperly accumulated, no? So under Republic Act 8424 lang. So in the case of corporation adopting the fiscal year accounting period, the improperly accumulated income not subject to this tax shall be reckoned as of the end of the month, comprising the 12-month period of fiscal year 97 and 98, no? Reasonable needs of the business. For purposes of this section, the term reasonable needs of the business includes the reasonably anticipated needs of the business. Kaya yun yung sabi natin na maging exempt sila sa improperly accumulated earnings tax kung there is an anticipated needs of the business and inappropriate po nila yung retained earnings. Kaya may reason sila not to declare those income as dividend, no? May reason sila na i-accumulate yung earnings. Okay. So what are the exemptions from tax on corporations, no? So these are the following organizations shall not be taxed under this title in respect to income received by them as such. Okay, ito yung mga exemption from tax on corporation. Sino-sino ito mga to, no? Letter A, labor, agricultural, or horticultural organization not organized principally for profit. So, ito yung mga non-stock, non-profit. Letter B, mutual savings bank, not having a capital stock represented by shares, and cooperative banks without capital stock organized and operated for mutual purposes and without profit, no? So, mutual savings bank. Letter C, a beneficiary society, order, or association operating for the exclusive benefit of the members, such as the fraternal organization operating under the LAD system, or mutual aid association, or a non-stock corporation organized by employees providing for the payment of life, sickness, accident, or other benefits exclusively to the members of such society, order, or association, or non-stock corporation on their dependents, no? So, sabi dito, benefits exclusively to the members. Pero pag nanghingi ka ng tax exemption dito at sabi nila na merong benefits inure to the members, hindi ka bibigyan, no? Pero nasabi talaga dito na benefits exclusively to the members, no? Siguro dapat yan i-reconcile. Letter D, cemetery company owned and operated exclusively for the benefit of its members. Ito yung mga cemetery company, no? Owned and operated for the benefit of the members. Non-stock corporation or association organized and operated exclusively for religious, charitable, scientific, athletic, or cultural purposes, or for the rehabilitation of veterans, no part of its net income or asset shall belong to or inure to the benefit of any member, organizer, officer, or any specific person, no? to yung non-stock corporation or association. Okay. Letter F, business league, chamber of commerce, or board of trade not organized for profit, and no part of the net income of which inures to the benefit of any private stockholder or individual. No? Letter G, civic league or organization not organized for profit but operated exclusively for the benefit of social welfare. No? Letter H, a non-stock and non-profit educational institution. Letter I, government educational institution. Letter J, farmers or other mutual typhoon or fire insurance company, mutual deeds or irrigation company, mutual or cooperative telephone company, or like organization of a purely local character, the income of which consists solely of assessments, dues, and fees collected from members for the sole purpose of meeting its expenses. No? And letter K, farmers, fruit growers, or like association organized and operated as a sales agent for the purpose of marketing the products of its members and turning back to them the proceeds of sales, less the necessary selling expenses on the basis of the quantity of produce finished by them. No? So, itong mga sinabi natin, ito yung mga exempt sa tax, no, ng corporations. Provided marami po itong mga requirements. No? Meron tayong mga accrediting agencies. Halimbawa, kung social welfare ka, dapat accredited ka ng DSWD. At saka may mga reporting requirements. No? At saka yung mga funding nila may mga limitations. No? Okay. So, notwithstanding the provision of the preceding paragraph, the income of whatever kind and character of the foregoing organizations from any of their properties, real or personal, or from any of their activities conducted for profit, regardless of the disposition made of such income, shall be subject to tax imposed under this code. Bakit? Kagaya halimbawa nung mga government educational institution na at the same time, yung sabi natin may mga ancillary income sila, income generating. So magbabayad sila ng tax doon. No? Okay. Yung mother na regulations po dito is yung Revenue Regulations 13-98, no? Kasi ito yung mga exempt corporations na to, sila yung mga qualified na donor institutions. Why? Kasi yung source of income nila from donations, no? So yung mga donations na tinatanggap nila are regulated. Itong 13-98, yun yung mother regulations, no? Okay. May question?
Wala, ma'am.
May nanonood pa?
Meron, ma'am.
Okay. So tuloy po tayo, no? Punta na po tayo sa computation of taxable income because we have defined the tax rates ng individuals, ng corporations, the domestic corporations, and then the foreign corporations. Na-define na po natin sila, and then the tax rates. And also, we have already defined kung ano man yung mga exempt corporations. Now, let's go to the computation of taxable income, no? Sa mga taxable, kasi yung hindi taxable, hindi talaga sila subject, no? So, Section 31 defined taxable income. No? It means the pertinent items of gross income specified in this code less the deduction, if any, authorized for such types of income by this code or other special laws. So, ano yung dapat natin tingnan dito? The deductions. The gross income. No? Yung source of income niya na taxable, and then the deductions para niya arrive yung taxable income, no? Because hindi naman lahat, no, the whole amount or the gross na income ang taxable. Allowed pa in some cases ng deductions, except yung mga tax on foreign corporations na subject sila sa 25% na gross income tax rate, wala ng deductions yun kasi gross income. But in other cases, the domestic corporations and the resident foreign corporations, pwede po silang mag-claim ng deductions, no? In order to arrive at the taxable income. Okay. So how do we compute the gross income, no? So bago tayo makapunta sa taxable income, alamin muna natin ano yung gross income. Why? Kasi pag na-define na natin yung gross income, i-define naman din natin yung mga deductions. Bakit? Kasi gross income less deductions equals the taxable income. So alamin natin ano muna yung gross income para and then alamin din natin yung ano yung mga allowable deductions para malaman na natin yung taxable income. And then doon na natin i-multiply yung rate in order to get the tax that should be paid, no? Okay. So, definition of the gross income under section 32, no? Except when otherwise provided in this title, gross income means all income. So, lahat ng income derived from whatever source, including but not limited to the following items. Ito na yung mga items, no, enumerated. Number 1, compensation for services. Kasama siya sa gross income. In whatever form paid, whether in cash or in kind, no? So, including but not limited to fees, salaries, wages, commissions, and similar items. No? Gross income derived from the conduct of trade or business or the exercise of a profession. No? So, from the trade or business or exercise of profession, kasama siya na gross income. Gains derived from dealings in property. Nagbenta ka ng property, no? So, kumita ka doon. Interest, no? So, kasama din ang interest sa gross income. Rents, royalties, dividends, annuities, no? Prizes and winnings, pensions, partners' distributive share from the net income of the general professional partnership. So, ito na yung sabi natin kanina na the general professional partnership is not taxable on its income, pero pag binigay na niya yan sa kanyang mga partners, naging taxable na as income of the partner. No? So kasama sa gross income. Okay, so we define the gross income. Now, alamin natin ano yung exclusion from the gross income. Okay, so the following items shall not be included in gross income and shall be exempt from taxation under this title. No? Number 1, life insurance. No? So life insurance is not included, no, sa gross income. Ibig sabihin, hindi siya kasama na i-compute mo ng tax. Proceeds of life insurance policies paid to the heirs or beneficiaries upon the death of the insured, whether in a single sum or otherwise, but if such amount are held by the insurer under an agreement to pay interest therein, the interest payment shall be included in gross income. Yung interest lang, pero yung proceeds ng insurance policies ng life insurance, hindi po siya kasama. So, amount received by insured as return of premium. So, amount received by the insured as a return of premium, binayad niya yung premium binaliksan niya. Paid by him under the insurance, endowment, or annuity contracts, either during the term or at the maturity of the term mentioned in the contract or upon surrender of the contract, hindi rin po kasama sa gross income. Gifts, bequests, and devices. Ito yung mga binigay nung estate, nung decedent sa isang tao, no? So the value of property acquired by gift, bequest, device, or descent, provided, however, that income from such property as well as gift, bequest, device, or descent of income from any property in cases of transfer of divided interest shall be included in gross income. No? Okay, so yung income, yung gift mismo, hindi siya kasama. Pero yung income na manggagaling doon sa gift na yon or bequest or devices, kasama po na taxable. Yung income, pero yung gift mismo, hindi. Okay. Kasi halimbawa, yung gift is building, no? Binigay halimbawa nung decedent, no? May binigyan siya ng building. Yung building mismo, hindi siya kasama sa gross income. Pero yung rental earned doon sa building, kasama sa gross income, no? Okay. So, compensation for injuries or sickness. Amounts received through accident or health insurance or under workmen's compensation acts as a compensation for personal injuries or sickness, plus the amounts of any damages received, whether by suit or agreement, on account of such injuries or sickness, no? So, hindi siya kasama na gross income kasi bayad yan sa injuries, no? So, damages yan. Income exempt under treaty, no? May unforgettable ako dito sa income exempt under treaty, no? So, income of any kind to the extent required by any treaty obligation binding upon the government of the Philippines. So, anong sinasabi dito? Income exempt under treaty. So, magkakaiba yan pag sinabi mo na income under treaty. No? Income under treaty, there are income under treaty na taxable. So, very specific ito, income exempt under treaty. Pag tinanggal mo yung word na exempt, may income na taxable under the treaty. No? Pag binasa mo yung treaties, may mga taxable income doon. Okay. So, retirement benefits, pensions, gratuities, and others. No? So, ano itong mga retirement benefits? Excluded from gross income. No? So, retirement benefits received under Republic Act number 7641 are those received by officials and employees of private firms, whether individual or corporate, in accordance with the reasonable private benefit plan. Mandatory po ito, no? Kasi Republic Act 7641 required na may benefit plan. So, maintained by the employer, provided that the retiring official or employee has been in the service of the same employer for at least 10 years. So, 10 years po ang requirement. And is not less than 50 years old. And hindi po siya less than 50 years old. Ibig sabihin, 50 years old and above, no? At the time of the retirement, no? Kaya para ma-exempt. So, provided further that the benefits granted under this subparagraph shall be availed of by an official or employee only once, no? So, minsan lang siya magpa-exempt ng retirement benefits. For purposes of this subsection, the term reasonable private benefit plan means a pension, gratuity, stock bonus, or profit-sharing plan maintained by an employer for the benefit of some or all of his officials or employees, wherein contributions are made by such employer for the officials or employees, or both for the purpose of distributing to such officials and employees the earnings and principal of the fund thus accumulated, and wherein it is provided in said plan that at no time shall any part of the corpus or income of the fund be used for or be diverted to any purpose other than for the exclusive benefit of the said officials and employees, no? So, maraming requirement po yung retirement funds, no? Any amount received by an official or employee by his heirs from the employer as a consequence of separation of such official or employee from the service of the employer because of death, sickness, or other physical disability, or for any cause beyond the control of the said official or employee. So, hindi kasama sa gross income, hindi taxable. Okay. Letter C. The provisions of any existing law to the contrary notwithstanding, social security benefits, retirement gratuities, pensions, and other similar benefits received by resident or non-resident citizens of the Philippines or aliens who come to reside permanently in the Philippines from foreign government agencies and other institutions, private or public, no? So, letter D, payments of benefits due or to become due to any person residing in the Philippines under the laws of the United States, administered by the United States Veterans Administration. So, ito naman yung sa Veterans Administration. Ewan ko kung mayroon pa to kasi dati marami to eh. Kaso lang unti-unti naubos na, namatay na yung mga claimants. Kasi itong mga veterans na to, during the Second World War, no? In 1945 pa yun. Ilang years na? 75, no? Eh, ano na sila nung 1945, mga soldier na sila. So, 75 years ago. Kunting-kunti na lang to kung meron pa man. Parang naubos na to. Yung letter D na to, no? So, letter A, benefits received from or enjoyed under the social security system in accordance with the provisions of Republic Act number 8282. No? Ito yung sa SSS. Benefits received from the GSIS under Republic Act 8291, including retirement gratuity received by government officials and employees. No? So for your information, meron din po kaming a YouTube channel that deals with this mga labor benefits, yung usapang hanap buhay, no? So doon po namin siya nilagay na kasama natin na i-discuss itong mga benefits ng Social Security System under Republic Act 8282 and also yung mga benefits ng GSIS under Republic Act 8291, no? Kasi mandated by the law, no? Batas 'yan. Kasama na yung sa retirement under Republic Act 7641, no? I-discuss natin lahat doon. So what are these miscellaneous items, no? Income, letter A. This is number 7, miscellaneous item. Letter A, income derived by foreign government, no? So yung foreign government may income siya dito sa Pilipinas. So income derived from investment in the Philippines in loans, stocks, bonds, or other domestic securities, or from interest on deposits in banks in the Philippines by foreign governments, financing institutions owned, controlled, or enjoying refinancing from foreign governments, and international or regional financial institutions established by foreign governments, no? So, taxable or not? Hindi, because we're talking about exclusion from the gross income, no? So, letter B, income derived by the government or its political subdivisions. Income derived from any public utility or from the exercise of any essential government function accruing to the government of the Philippines or to any political subdivision thereof, no? So, hindi rin siya subject to kasama sa gross income. Prizes and awards made primarily in recognition of religious, charitable, scientific, educational, artistic, literary, or civic achievement, but only if the recipient was selected without any action on his part to enter the contest or proceeding, and the recipient is not required to render substantial future services as a condition to receiving the prize or award. Kasi pag meron itong letter number 1 at saka number 2, hindi po siya kasama na prizes and awards na hindi kasama sa gross income. Isasama na siya. Oh? Prizes and awards in sports competition. All prizes and awards granted to athletes in local and international sports competitions and tournaments, whether held in the Philippines or abroad, and sanctioned by their national sports association. So ito yung mga prizes and awards in sports competition, also not included in gross income. 13th month pay and other benefits. How much na to? 90,000, hindi po siya kasama, no? So gross benefits received by officials, employees of public and private entities, provided that the total exclusion under this paragraph shall not exceed 90,000, no? Which shall cover, ano po yung mga benefits covered sa 90,000. Kasama na dyan yung benefits received by officials and employees of the national local government pursuant to Republic Act number 6686. Benefits received by employees pursuant to Presidential Decree number 851 as amended by Memorandum Order number 28 dated August 30, 1986. No, ito yung mga 13th month. Benefits received by officials and employees not covered by Presidential Decree number 851 as amended by Memorandum Order number 28 dated August 13, 1986, and other benefits such as productivity incentives and Christmas bonus, no? So kasama po siya doon sa 90,000 na hindi taxable. GSIS, SSS, Medicare and other contributions, union dues of individuals, hindi rin po kasama sa gross income. Gains from the sale of bonds, debentures, or other certificate of indebtedness, gain realized from the same or exchange or retirement of bonds, debentures, or other certificate of indebtedness with a maturity of more than 5 years. Kasi pagka less than 5 years, di ba kanina, subject na siya sa final tax. Gains from redemption of shares in mutual fund. Gains realized by the investor upon redemption of shares of stocks in a mutual fund company as defined in Section 22BB of this code. So, hindi kasama sa gross income. No? So, wala nang tanong?
Wala, ma'am. Wala, ma'am.
Okay, so kasi meron tayong Section 33, the special treatment of friends benefits. No? Mahaba-haba siguro ito. No? So, tapusin na natin. Kasi, kunti na lang siya. Ang susunod, Chapter 7 na, the allowable deduction. So, kunti na lang, tapusin natin itong friends benefits. No? So, Section 33, special treatment of friends benefits. No? Letter A, ano ba itong friends benefits? Ito yung, ano mo siya, no? Yung binigay mo sa supervisory at saka sa managerial employee mo, and then i-gross up mo yung friends benefits at babayaran yung final tax ng employer, no? So basahin natin kung ano yung law on this, no? Letter A, imposition of tax. Effective January 1, 2018 and onwards, a final tax of 35% is hereby imposed on the gross up monetary value of friends benefits furnished or granted to the employee, except rank and file employees defined herein by the employer, whether an individual or a corporation, unless the friends benefits is required by the nature of or necessary to the trade, business, or profession of the employer, or when the friends benefits is for the convenience or advantage of the employer. No? The tax herein imposed is payable by the employer, which tax shall be paid in the same manner as provided for under Section 57 of this code. The gross monetary value of the friends benefit shall be determined by dividing the actual monetary value of the friends benefits by 65%. Yung sinasabi kong i-gross up mo. Effective January 1, 1998, 67% effective January 1, 1999, and 68% effective January 1, 2000 and thereafter, provided, however, that friends benefits furnished to employees and taxable under subsection B, C, D, and E of Section 25 shall be taxed at the applicable rates imposed thereat. No? Provided further that the gross up monetary value of the friends benefit shall be determined by dividing the actual monetary value of the friends benefits by the difference between 100% and the applicable rates of income tax under subsection B, C, D, and E of Section 25. So, how much yung ating income tax ngayon? 30%. Friends benefits defined. So, for purposes of this section, the term friends benefits means any good, service, or other benefit furnished or granted in cash or in kind by an employer to an individual employee, except rank and file employees as defined herein, such as but not limited to the following, no? Bakit except yung rank and file employees? Because if the rank and file employees receive friends benefits, ang treatment doon included siya sa kanyang compensation. So, hindi siya magiging subject sa final tax na babayaran ng employer. Ang mangyayari doon, since ang friends benefits included doon sa compensation income ng rank and file, itatax siya kasama ng compensation, i-withhold siya ng employer. Babayaran niya doon yung income tax. No? Kasi hindi siya final tax, creditable lang. Okay, so what are the example ng friends benefits? Housing, expense account, vehicle of any kind, household personnel. Remember, ang bibigyan dito, supervisory lang at saka managerial. Household personnel such as maid, driver, and others. Interest on loans at less than market rate to the extent of the difference between the market rate and the actual rate granted. No? Number 6, membership fees, dues, and other expenses borne by the employer for the employee in social and athletic clubs or other similar organizations. And also, expenses for foreign travel, holiday and vacation expenses, educational assistance to the employee or his dependents, and life or health insurance and other non-life insurance premiums or similar amounts in excess of what the law allows. So, ito yung 1 to 10 na mga friends benefits. na taxable, no? So sa letter C naman, ito yung fringe benefits na hindi taxable. No, the following fringe benefits are not taxable under this section. Fringe benefits which are authorized and exempted from the tax under special laws, no? Kung may batas na nag-i-exempt yan sa fringe benefits na yan, hindi siya subject to tax. Contributions of the employer for the benefit of the employee to retirement insurance and hospitalization benefit plans, no? So hindi rin kasama. Benefits given to the rank and file employees, whether granted under a collective bargaining agreement or not, and de minimis benefits as defined in the rules and regulations to be promulgated by the Secretary of Finance upon recommendation of the Commissioner, no? So the Secretary of Finance is hereby authorized to promulgate upon recommendation of the Commissioner such rules and regulations as are necessary to carry out efficiently and fairly the provisions of this section, taking into account the peculiar nature and special need of the trade, business, or profession of the employer. So itong mga binigay niya sa empleyado, basta managerial and supervisory, itong mga housing, expense account, vehicle of any kind is subject to the final tax na fringe benefits tax. Sino pong magbabayad yan? The employer. No? So, I have discussed to you up to section 33. So, yung next po natin sa Thursday na live streaming, chapter 7 na tayo on allowable deductions, no? So, with this, I would like to say thank you and we call it a night, no? So, yung iba siguro tulog na o kaya naantok na. Okay, so let's call it a night. Thank you very much.